What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. On this Tuesday, the 22nd of April, 2025, our good friend Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football, and you catch him on BYP throughout the offseason and the NFL season, kind enough to join us. Give him a follow on X at Lloyd Vance. We are powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, 20% off your first purchase, BYP 20, and of course, Played Against Sports, two locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel. And we continue to take a look at the AFC and how the West was won. Now, obviously, Kansas City, the defending AFC champs. You got the upstart Raiders, Denver, the Chargers, two teams that also made a late push into the playoffs. Let's start with the defending AFC champion, but Super Bowl loser, Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they still got that core in place, and as long as you have Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, you look at this division, you look at the AFC, people still believe that Kansas City is going to be okay. But for you, biggest need not only heading into Thursday, but moving forward.
Well, Q, everybody's going to talk about how the Kansas City Chiefs lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles, and it was because of pressure. And the Eagles just dominated up front, sacking Patrick Mahomes six times. And the Chiefs have gone about this all season trying to clean up that area. So they're bringing Jalen Moore coming over from the Niners. Um, they also re-signed Trey Smith, their offensive guard, locked him up. And then more importantly, they trade Joe Thuney away. The guy was kind of the GOAT in the Super Bowl that kind of got beat often on the outside. They sent him to Chicago. So I definitely think the offensive line is going to be an area of need that they're going to focus on. They still have Patrick Mahomes, as you said. Most of this team piece is still in place. They're hoping to get Rashee Rice back at the receiver position. So I think offensive tackle, offensive guard, and then possibly that secondary, they may need to look at um, revamping some things there because they did get beat over the top by the Eagles over and over again.
Yeah, so again, their Super Bowl winning odds 6-1, seventh consecutive season. The win total has been at least 10. That's the most of any team over that span. 12 seasons under Andy Reid. It's amazing. 12 seasons. They won 10 plus games 11 times. So you almost say to yourself, it's a foregone conclusion. Now, the win total is 11 and a half, peaking juiced over. I mean, I just think they find ways, even if they're a 8-4 team, they'll find a way to win three or four to close out the season. I believe they're definitely going to win 11. Do I think they can win 12 and 13? Potentially, but I'm going to play the over with 11 and a half for KC.
Yeah, Q, and I think that 12 is right around the number that I'm thinking. So I think they will get over that number. It may be close, but they find a way, championship DNA, to win these regular season
Yep.
games. Yes, their offense kind of sputtered last year, only scoring about 22.6 points per game. But I think they still have enough firepower, especially with Mahomes and the rest of the guys there. And they're going to have the bad taste in their mouth of being that Super Bowl hangover. And I still think they're the kings of this division. So they should get to 12.
They're one of the teams that'll be looking to kind of knock them off the perch, the LA Chargers. I mean, listen, we saw the Harbaugh effect. They were 5-12 in 2023. They went 11-6 last season. The win totals projections right around 8.5. They were rolling. They were a very hot team heading into the playoffs. They won their final three games of the season to earn that playoff berth. I mean, I believe this is one of the most talented teams on paper. And I think last year you and I were talking about, a dark horse for MVP recognition or cadency or an opportunity to win the MVP award. And I listen, I laid it out. I love Justin Herbert. I think he's a fascinating quarterback. I think he's a very good quarterback. But again, like all these other teams in the NFL, it starts and ends with the protection, with the line, the offensive line, the pass protection. And we kind of saw it rear its ugly head. I mean, think about it. He got pressure in that game, that wild card game against Houston. He did not play particularly well. Smoke and mirrors with the stats. They got to address the offensive line. So, how about your thoughts on the Chargers?
Chargers are an interesting team too, because they're kind of refurbishing. Yes, they made the playoffs, surprised everybody 11-6. But you talk about that playoff loss to Houston, and it was a situation where Houston just kind of dominated them and made that game kind of ugly. So yes, they have Rashawn Slater up front, and they're going to try to utilize him once again in the group around him. But they're bringing in a new running back and Najee Harris coming over from the Steelers. They get rid of Joey Bosa on the defensive line. He goes to Buffalo. I think that may be an area of need. They're going to look at obviously running back. They're going to change some things around. Gus Edwards not going to be back. J.K. Dobbins not going to be back. So Horwitz, who's trying to put that tough, you know, Ravens mentality coming up from the GM position as well as Harbaugh. I think they do try to go D line. Also look at receiver. They did bring Mike Williams back, but I think they're going to need to add some more there. And then running back, as I said.
Yeah, so you look at it, I mean, these blow you away, right? They turn around, they get guard Mekhi Becton, they get running back Najee Harris. You mentioned Jalen Reagor, that's a 1 year contract. They went with a couple corners and a couple of linebackers. I mean, is that going to be enough in your estimation to not only have them vie against Kansas City, but also hit their win total, which is sitting right now at 10 and a half? And I can tell you this, they won 10 or more games in two of the last three seasons, but only three times over the last 15 years. So how about the acquisitions, the additions I just mentioned? And do you believe they're going to go over their win total or under?
I think the acquisitions, Harbaugh's coming in, he's tinkering, changing some things around, and he's seeing that some of the veterans that he brought over from Baltimore may have not had a left gas left in the tank. So they're trying to change some things around. The only thing is last year, 11-6 surprised a lot of people. I don't know if they're going to get to that number again. So I probably would take that under. I think they're still an improving team. Obviously, Herbert playing at a very high level. They have a lot of picks. They have 10 picks in this draft. At 22, they'll probably see who's the best player available, but I just don't think they're going to get back to that playoff level this year. This may be one of those teams that kind of takes a step back.
And people thinking the ascent right now is for Bo Nix in Denver. Sean Payton, we saw a big improvement with that team last year. Pleasant surprise at quarterback and Bo Nix. Very strong play. I think the move for Eric Ingram is huge. 2 years, 23 million. We kind of saw him blossom with Jacksonville after kind of, never really finding it out with the New York Giants. I know he was sidelined with injuries, but he had that breakout campaign in 2023. So now, again, you're taking away a big target from Lawrence. You're providing a big target for Bo Nix. Where are you at right now with the Denver Broncos? And do you believe they can be a player in the AFC West?
I do believe the Broncos are still going to be in the mix because they have Sean Payton there doing a great job in terms of just bringing that veteran leadership at the helm, and George Payton and he, the general manager, seem to be on the same page. Now, a big thing is Javonte Williams, one of the running backs, he goes to the Dallas Cowboys. That's kind of been a position in need for them. I think they may look at that. Uh, Ingram's a nice get for them at tight end. That's going to give them some more explosiveness. Obviously, receiver has always been okay. You need some more pieces there. The guys have kind of been a bunch of number two. So I'd say running back, receiver, and tight end. Watch for that, even though Ingram's there. I'm hearing they really like Loveland coming out of Michigan. He's a guy that could be a difference maker who could be there at number 20. That's where they're picking. So fun team to watch, and I still think they're moving up.
If you played them last year, you were very profitable, 12-5 against the spread, 8-0 straight up as a favorite. Their last 10-win campaign was the Broncos' first season with double-digit victories since 2015. That, of course, was last year. They've gone under its win total for four straight seasons before a 10-7 run last year, 5-5, 5.5 win projection. So, I mean, think about that. So, obviously, their win total is going to be, the books are going to look at them saying they're a 9-win team. The odds makers haven't projected 9.5. Do you like them to go over and under?
And that's a tough one. Last year, 10-7, and I'll say they'll go over. It's going to be close though, but I think they're going to be right around that range. It's going to depend on Bo Nix, how
Yep.
he
Yep.
continues. He played very well, but let's not forget he was a rookie and he had some mistakes here and there. But this is the opportunity for him. But I'll say they go over, but it's going to be pretty close to being a push there.
Yeah, it's a great point. Always that second year, right? All right. How about the Raiders as we close the AFC West? I mean, did they turn the page or actually turn the corner, if you will? Because now all of a sudden you got a competent head coach in Pete Carroll. They locked up Max Crosby. The Seahawks traded Geno Smith to the Raiders for the 92nd overall pick in Thursday's draft. Smart move by Vegas. He's familiar with Carroll's offense. Again, is it enough? You look at Jeremy Chin, Lonnie Johnson, another cornerback, Raheem Mostert they brought over. Is that enough for the Raiders to make that jump?
Here's going to be interesting one because as you it's a tear down, but they go to old formula. They're bringing in Pete Carroll. He's bringing that veteran leadership, that toughness, and you have to say, okay, how much does he have left in the tank? Though at his age, but they also changed the general manager, bringing up John Spytek coming over from Tampa Bay, and then they bring OC Chip Kelly. He's back in the business, coming from Ohio State. So a lot of changes with the Raiders. I think they will be an improved team, but you want to see how Geno Smith acclimates to this unit because last year, let's face it, they just were not scoring a lot of points. That offense was kind of void, only 18.2 points per game. And then defensively, they allowed a ton of points, 25 and a half. They lose Robert Spillane, one of their leaders on their defense. He goes to New England. So a lot of moving parts with the Raiders, but I think they're going to be a competitive team. They're going to be one of those teams, they're going to be scrappy. They could be a spoiler at the end, but it's going to take Pete Carroll a little time to change things up there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They were 4-13 last season. They finished 8-9 ATS. They've had two winning seasons since 2002, 10-7 in 2021, 12-4 in 2016, and Carr led them. I remember, and he also got hurt late in the season when they lost in the playoffs. 5-5 win projection, their lowest since 2019, which was six, and they went over. They're sitting at 5.5. I'm gonna touch them a shade under. I don't believe this team's gonna win 5 games. I think they'll be competitive, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, Q, I think it may be a push. I think they win 5, 6 games. It'll be a minimal improvement, but they need some weapons on offense. Yes, they have Brock Boyer, who's one of the best young tight ends in the game today, and but there's just not a lot of pieces around there. Max Crosby on defense a lot of times is left to his own druthers. So I say they'll be a little improved, but it's definitely going to be a learning season for the Raiders.
All right, so there's a look at the AFC West as we are continuing going around the league on BYP Back Your Play with Q. Rich can you and us here. Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us. So you go from a how the West was won to a very stacked division to now a division in the AFC South, which, I mean, think about it. Jacksonville, Tennessee, the Colts. I mean, they have an opportunity to clinch. They lose to the lowly Giants late last season. And then you got the Texans and again, if you want to say smoke and mirrors with the Texans and CJ Stroud, so be it. The quarterback carousel in that division has been something. The Titans obviously need a quarterback. The Colts, we'll get to them in a moment. Then you got the Texans, and then you got Jacksonville that just basically cleaned house, but you still have Trevor Lawrence. So let's go with the Texans first and foremost. Biggest need going into Thursday night and just overall view on the moves they made in this offseason.
Yeah, overall, you'd have to say they're going to look at the offensive line
Yeah.
because they traded Laremy Tunsil. They sent him over to Washington. They sent Green to the Eagles, and just that offensive line just was not doing a very good job in terms of protection. So they have Howard, one of their former high draft picks. He's still there, and they're kind of build with him and kind of see what they could get. But let's not forget, this team did win a playoff game. They beat the Chargers, and so they have some talent there. You're looking for CJ Stroud to kind of have that bounce back season. Hopefully, the line does a better job protecting him. Also, look at receiver Q because Tank Dell, that was a very bad injury for him in terms of his
Yep.
knee late in the season. You wonder if he's going to come back. And then they have Diggs there, but he kind of needs to take a step forward. Maybe a young guy coming and pushing him may help. So, Texans are going to be an interesting team, but as you were alluding to early on, this division's very bad. So I think
Yeah.
they'll still be kind of at the top here.
Yeah, they've gone 10-7. Speaking of the Texans, each of their last two seasons, they won the South both times. Six double-digit win season in franchise history since 2002. Four have come in the last 7 years. So 14-6-3 season-long win totals in franchise history. But as you mentioned, it's a bad division. 9.5, I think, is relatively low. I'm inclined to play the over as long as CJ Stroud is upright and they can put up some points. But I think this is a 10-win team.
I definitely think they can get to double digit wins. And that's probably what's going to take in this division. The first team to 10 is going to win. And I think the Texans, still with D'Amico Ryans and what he's done there, and Nick Casario, the general manager, they're building a program here. Hopefully, they won't have the injury bug that they had last year kind of affected them. But I think the Texans will be a better team.
The Colts a shuffling of quarterbacks, right? Richardson gets hurt. We've seen it. Flacco comes in. They can't beat the Giants. Bad loss. And oh, by the way, the Giants turn around. We already know about the well-documented release of Daniel Jones, and he goes to Minnesota, and then he signs with the aforementioned Indianapolis Colts, where I believe he's actually going to push Anthony Richardson, as crazy as that sounds. So fresh start for him, but I'm just not. I look at this team, and I feel like they're in flux. I mean, they won 8 games last year, and their win projection was 8.5, but they had some really terrible and bad losses. I don't like the Colts at all. I mean, I think Jacksonville and even the Titans with a rookie quarterback might come in and win more games than the Colts. I just don't like the makeup of this team.
Yeah, it's a tough one because they put all their eggs into Richardson's basket. They drafted him high, and he's just an inaccurate passer. Q, explosive athlete, but he can't stay healthy as well. And now they bring Daniel Jones there to kind of push him. And we'll see if he's going to have that rebirth and be this year's Sam Darnold. But the playbook with that read option that Steichen runs, that may be effective for Daniel Jones. So
Agree.
a a big thing you have to watch is the offensive line for this team. Yes, they have Quentin Nelson, a perennial All Pro there, but he's getting a little older in age, and then they got to kind of build around him. So I think offensive guard may be an area that they're looking at here. And don't forget about tight end as well, because Granderson went over to the Philadelphia Eagles. They need some more explosiveness there. Yes, they have Taylor, they got Pittman, but the tight end position's kind of been lacking for them.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you bring up because they didn't have really any tight ends to have over 15, 16 receptions. Taylor obviously with over 1,400 yards. But to your point, I mean, it's crazy. Anthony Richardson played in 11 games. He was only sacked 14 times. He didn't really put up a lot of big numbers, but you're just a concern injury. And that's how I look at this team. It's one of the reasons that I don't see them winning 4 or 5 um, or 6 games. Their win total, the way it should be projected, because the thought now is that Daniel Jones will push Anthony Richardson, which is not saying much about Anthony Richardson. With that being said, if you look at this team right now, I don't believe they're going to contend in the AFC South. I really don't. And I would be hard pressed to think if Richardson really starts to slide and has a down year, then we start to look at this as a colossal mistake. I don't know how you can project them at 9, but the books have them at 6.5. Some writers have them and media guys have them at 8.5. I'm just sitting here with 4 or 5 win team. I like the under of 6.5.
I kind of agree with you in terms of this team. They were 8-9 last season, but they don't have that consistency, particularly on defense, where they allow 25.5 points per game. Yes, they have Latu, who's exciting young pass rusher, but not much else there. And Shane Steichen is going to be firmly on the hot seat, and Chris Ballard, the general manager here. So a lot of expectations for this team, but I think they're going to probably underachieve, and everybody's going to have their eye on them in terms of the hot seat of those two.
Yeah, operative word underachieved. Talk about Jacksonville Jaguars, right? They've gone under their win total 6 of the last 7 seasons. The lone over came in 2022. They went 9 on a 6.5 total. They have a win projection of 8.5. Now, is this the season that they put it together and make a run? Obviously, they had to get rid of a lot of the toxicity within that locker room, starting with the head coach that we knew was dead man walking. Mentioned Ingram's no longer. They still got some weapons. You still have Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this is a team that's very hard for me to figure out because, Trevor Lawrence got banged up. He wasn't playing particularly well. They've got some running back by committee and they've got Thompson Jr. They got a decent tight end. So Jacksonville right now, thoughts on them?
Jacksonville's going to be picking number 5 on Thursday, and in this situation where they need improvement everywhere, kind of what you're alluding to last year, born 13, Doug Peterson situation, that thing blew up, and you know they need help on offense, only scoring about 19 points per game. And then defensively, though, they allow 25.6. So huge disparity there. A lot of guys that I'm talking to say they're looking at defensive line. They think Mason Graham may be the guy at that number 5 pick coming out of Michigan, high motor player. They could team him with Trayvon Walker, who's already there, and get some explosive. Now you're bringing Liam Cohen over.
Yep.
I think he's going to do a good job in terms of rebuilding Trevor Lawrence, and he's going to have to get the ball out of his hands, though, to Williams Jr., who was a very exciting player. So fun team to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can rebuild quickly. We've seen this a lot where a team was down, in the 4-win range, and then next season they kind of make that jump.
Yeah, I'm wondering too, if you look at Jacksonville right now, you mentioned they're slated at five. Again, Mason Graham, okay, here we go. Um, I'm wondering if the running back from Boise State, if he's the first back to go, can you see Jacksonville taking a running back?
Well, Ashton Genty may be in play there, but we have to watch that. But that may be a little early for him, but they do need a running back because, as you said, ATN has kind of been an underachiever for them. They picked him high a couple of years ago, and he's just not been the right player for him. So running back may be a position of need, maybe not in the first round, but later on in the draft. Definitely think D tackle, DN. They need some safety help, and then maybe a receiver to kind of replace Christian Kirk who left. So a lot of things at play, but they're going to kind of see what drops in them. And Liam Cohen coming out of that Ram system, I know he wants to build explosive offense.
Yeah, they're middle of the pack, if you will, or kind of almost at the bottom of the pack. I mean, do you see this team? Can you project this team winning five, six, 7 games?
Yeah, I definitely, they were 14 and 13 last year. A lot of heartbreakers that they lost in terms of last second losses and guy fumbles at the last second. Bad mistakes late in the fourth quarter. So I think Cohen's going to come in there with the GM Gladstone and try to clean those types of situations up. And they could probably get to 6, 7 wins. It's going to be interesting to see if they can string some other games together and then jump in that wild card miss. But I think they'll definitely be above that 5, 6 win total.
All right, not a lot of drama with the Tennessee Titans. It's going to be a foregone conclusion that the first name called by Roger Goodell on Thursday night is going to be Cam Ward, the Miami quarterback. It's felt like a lock. Obviously, you got a new GM. They're thinking about the quarterback of the future. We kind of know that they need a quarterback. I guess is this the right fit? I mean, do you pass up on Ward? I mean, they have to go in this direction, and just it seems like it's 99.9%. It's a lock.
Well, Q, Will Levis was just so bad for them in
Oh,
terms of
horrible.
turnovers. I mean, they can't put him back out there. Brian Callahan, young coach coming over from Cincinnati, and he's trying to establish his program. So they changed the GM. They got rid of Rand Carthon,
Yep.
bringing Mike Borgonzi, and he's trying to help Callahan. But this is another team where you may be talking about, okay, the coach and the GM are in the hot seat right away, made a lot of changes in the offseason. They bringing in Kevin Zeichler and particularly over from Detroit, trying to help that offensive line. David Moore from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you're right, they're going to try to protect that young quarterback in Cam Ward. Now, the interesting thing is, will they put him on the field right away? And is there enough pieces around him to help him? So, a lot to watch, but yeah, it's a foregone conclusion that he will be the first pick.
Yeah, I mean, think about some of these quarterbacks they've had on the depth chart: Levis, Brandon Allen, Tim Boyle. They still got Pollard back there, Ridley. They've got, some playmakers, but I think it's going to be sink or swim for this kid. I really do. I think he's going to get thrown to the wolves. Um, and that's why you need a ground game for a young quarterback. You need an offensive line. You need a ground game for a young quarterback, period. If you can develop a tight end along the way, that's perfect. But more times than not, these quarterbacks that have struggled, you and I know over the last 15, 20 years, it's because they're literally running for their life. I mean, they're just every play, they're just trying to survive. Now, the win total is going to be extremely low, especially if there's buzz that Cam Ward is beating out whomever to start on opening day. I mean, that's, week one, if it's going to be Cam Ward, then suspect there's going to be some growing pains. And that's one of the reasons that their win total is sitting right around five. I mean, again, lowest win total since 2016. They finished under 500 for 3 straight seasons. They had won at least 9 games in each of the previous six. Different regime, different players, different head coach. I think if Ward starts, he's going to struggle like every rookie typically does. I'm going to hammer the under here. Can they win more than 5.5?
Well, last year Q 3 and 14, and I think maybe they're a little better getting to 4 or 5 wins, but I just don't see them getting over that, get to that 6 number. And they may improve. a little bit under Callahan, but it's going to be a learning experience for Cam Ward. And as I said, Callahan, you're starting to wonder, okay, was he the right guy for this job? Was he ready for this position? And then in terms of their playmakers, there's just not a lot at the receiver and running back position for them. So a lot of guys that are number twos, but who's that big stud that's going to help Cam Ward take the pressure off him? So I don't think they get to that number.
All right, that'll do it for the AFC West, the AFC South. Tomorrow, the North, and then the AFC East, which is always an interesting topic of discussion. And then we'll clean everything up later on Thursday. We'll do a mock draft. We got to get into some of these news and notes as well. Everything going on in the NFL, from quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers that haven't made a decision to recorded tapes coming out on Shannon Sharp, lawsuits. I mean, it's just, and the draft, by the way, Thursday night, it begins in Green Bay, and we will certainly give you our thoughts on that. Don't forget to give Lloyd a follow at Lloyd Vance on social media platforms. Catch him too. Lloyd Vance is Insider Football, kind enough to join us on a Tuesday edition of BYP. And as always, check out the show notes, BYP 20% off your first purchase of fresh roasted coffee. And we are powered by our good friends over at Played Against Sports, playedagainstsports.com. Always appreciate a couple moments, my friend. Thank you.
All right, Q, thanks for having me on.